Today we're reading from the Madhya Lila. We're summarizing the Madhya Lila, chapters 17 and 18. After attending the Ratha Yatra ceremony of Sri Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to start for Vrindavan. Although Lord Chaitanya planned to travel alone, Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar strongly insisted that he take someone with him. Two devotees were named to accompany him. Balabhadra Bhattacharya would collect alms and cook his meals, while an assistant Brahmin would carry Lord Chaitanya's cloth and his water pot. This would allow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to freely chant and dance on his way to Vrindavan. Having settled all the practicalities, Lord Chaitanya requested permission from his worshipable Lord Jagannath. And then he slipped away during Brahma Muhurta before sunrise to fulfill his long-cherished aspiration. North of Kataka, he penetrated a dense forest called Jarikanda. And there he visited some tigers, some elephants, some birds, deer, and so forth, whom he engaged in chanting. He traveled through the Jarikanda forest, chanting and dancing in unbounded happiness. His ecstasy transformed the fierce tigers, the powerful elephants, and the timid deer, all of whom symphonically chanted, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna." The forest reminded Sri Chaitanya of Vrindavan, the transcendental abode where everyone lives together in spiritual harmony. He carried that spirit of Vrindavan with him everywhere he went, and he bestowed that holy influence upon the places and the people that he visited. And I want to read directly from the Madhya Lila some of that story about Jarikanda. Sometimes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted very loudly while passing through the jungle. Hearing his sweet voice, all the does, all the female deer came near him. Lord Chaitanya was repeating this verse, "Blessed are all these foolish deer, because they have approached the son of Maharaj Nanda, who is gorgeously dressed and who is playing on his flute. Indeed, both the does and the bucks worship the Lord with looks of love and affection." While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was passing through the jungle, 5, 6, or even 7 tigers came and joined the deer, not to eat them, but to dance along with Lord Chaitanya. They all began to follow the Lord. Seeing the tigers and the deer following him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately remembered the land of Vrindavan, and he began to recite a verse describing the transcendental qualities of Vrindavan. "Vrindavan," he said, "is the transcendental abode of the Lord. There is no hunger, no anger, no thirst. Though naturally inimical, both human beings and fierce animals live together there in transcendental friendship." Reminds you of the Christian verse about the lion and the lamb, right? Yeah? Laying down with the lion and the lamb. This is a statement from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. After stealing the cowherd boys, calves and cows of Sri Krishna, Lord Brahma kept them asleep and hid them. After a moment, Brahma returned to see Krishna's condition, expecting that he would be brokenhearted. When he saw that Krishna was still busy with all of his cowherd boyfriends and animals and was not at all disturbed, Lord Brahma appreciated the transcendental opulence of Vrindavan. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Chant, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna," the tigers and the deer began to chant, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna." All the tigers and does danced, "Krishna, Krishna." They jumped up and down. Balabhadra Bhattacharya saw them and he was struck with wonder. Can you imagine 8 tigers and maybe 10 does, 10 deer, and a whole bunch of other animals, elephants and so forth, all just jumping up and down in the forest, and each doing the best they can to utter the words Krishna, Krishna? Indeed, the tigers and the deer began to embrace one another. They began to embrace one another. And touching mouths, they began to kiss. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw all this fun, he began to smile. And finally, he left the animals and continued on his way. Then various birds, including the peacock, saw Lord Chaitanya and began to follow him, chanting and dancing. They were all maddened by the holy name of Krishna. Then the Lord loudly chanted, "Haribol, Haribol!" And the creepers and trees became jubilant to hear him. Bhaktivedanta Swami says, the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it can even penetrate the ears of trees and creepers, what to speak of animals and human beings. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once asked Haridas Thakur how trees and plants could be delivered. And Haridas Thakur replied that the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra would benefit not only the trees and plants, but the insects and all the other living beings. One should therefore not be disturbed by the loud chanting of Hare Krishna, because it is beneficial, not just for the ones who are chanting or to the other human beings who are listening, but to everyone who has the opportunity to hear. This is one of the things I love about Binyan, about the center there. I mean, they have such a beautiful garden and trees and flowers and tulsi and everything is there. And, you know, they chant every day so loudly. I can't imagine the good fortune of all those plants. It's amazing. And thus, all the living entities, some moving and some non-moving, in the forest of Jharkhand became maddened by hearing the holy name of Lord Krishna vibrated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A.C. Bhaktivedanta says, the great forest of Jharkhand is a great tract of land, including Atagada, Denkanala, Angula, Lahara, Kiyanchada, Bamada, Bonai, Gangapura, Chota Nagapura, Yasapura, and Saraguja. I have no idea where all those places are, but it sounds like they're pretty big. All these places, which are covered with mountains and jungles, are known as Jharkhand Forest. When Lord Chaitanya finally arrived in Varanasi, he met with Tapan Mishra and his son, Raghunath Bhatta. The young boy, who would later become one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, humbly served the Lord with great devotion. Chandrasekhar also came to see the Lord, and out of loving affection, Sri Chaitanya stayed for 10 days. In a town swarming with impersonalists, Chandrasekhar and Tapan Misra were practically the only Vaishnavas in the whole place. The local leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis was Prakasananda Saraswati. And when he heard of Sri Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, he flatly dismissed the whole thing as very sentimental and nothing but emotional gibberish. He openly blasphemed Sri Chaitanya as a pretender and a charlatan who was simply hypnotizing people en masse. Prakasananda Saraswati used to explain impersonalism, the absolute truth, as having no hands or legs, no mouths or eyes. And in this way, he would cheat people by denying the personal form of the Lord. Such a foolish person was Prakasananda Saraswati, whose only business was to sever the limbs of the Lord by proving the Lord to be an impersonal light, for lack of a better word. Although the Lord does have form, Prakasananda Saraswati was attempting to simply cut off the hands and legs of the Lord. This is the business of demons, Bhaktivedanta Swami says. The Vedas state that people who do not accept the Lord's form are simply rascals. The form of the Lord is factual. Because Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedais cha savair aham eva vedya. When Krishna says aham, he says, I am, which means I, me, the person is speaking. He adds the word eva, which is used for conclusive verification. It is really, truly me. It is by Vedanta philosophy that one has to know the Supreme Person. Whoever describes Vedic knowledge as impersonal is simply a demon. One becomes successful in life by worshiping the form of the Lord. The Mayavadi sannyas denies the form of the Lord, which delivers the fallen souls. Indeed, this form is cut into pieces by Mayavadis. Prakasananda Saraswati said to Chaturmasya, he said, I have heard about him. Yeah, I've heard about him. He's a sannyas from Bengal, and he's very, very sentimental. I have also heard that he belongs to the Bharati Sampradaya because he's a disciple of Keshava Bharati. However, he's only a pretender. Prakasananda Saraswati continued, I know his name is Krishna Chaitanya, and that he's accompanied by so many sentimentalists. His followers dance with him, and he tours from country to country and village to village. Whoever sees him accepts him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Obviously, he's got some kind of mystic power by which he hypnotizes people. He's a better magician than he is a devotee. Everyone who sees him is thrown into this illusion. This Chaitanya is a sannyasi only in name. Actually, he's some kind of a first-class magician. You know what I mean? In any case, his sentimentalism can't be very much in demand here in Kasi. We all know better. Well, when the Brahmin heard Prakasananda Saraswati speak about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way, he became grief-stricken. He had already seen Lord Chaitanya knew who Lord Chaitanya was. And so he immediately left, chanting the holy name of Krishna. When Sri Chaitanya heard these criticisms, he smiled, contemplating how to free the inhabitants of Varanasi from their dry scholarship and academic approach to so-called spirituality. Nevertheless, at this time, he avoided confronting the Mayavadis. For now, his compelling priority was to get to Vrindavan. So, traveling via Prayag, Sri Chaitanya approached the sacred land of Mathura. Upon arrival, he fell to the ground and offered obeisances in ecstatic love. In this incarnation, it would be his first and last visit to the holy Dham. The appreciation he felt was indescribable. He was home. He was home. When Sri Chaitanya met the Sanodaya Brahmin, a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, he immediately felt a deep connection with him. They continued their pilgrimage together, feeling increasing anticipation and excitement as they approached the sacred forest of Vrindavan. When they eventually arrived, Sri Chaitanya became immersed in the ocean of transcendental feelings as he recounted the divine pastimes that Sri Krishna had enacted there 5,000 years ago. He had finally arrived home. Lord Chaitanya's body was so restless. Tears, trembling, and jubilation were manifest all throughout his body. Very loudly he said, "Chant Krishna! Chant Krishna!" All moving and non-moving creatures began to vibrate the transcendental sound of Hare Krishna, as if they were echoing the deep sound of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. The Lord then clasped the necks of the deer, and as he clasped their necks, he began to cry. There was jubilation manifest in the bodies of the deer, and the tears were in their eyes. When a male and female parrot appeared on the branches of a tree, the Lord saw them, and he wanted to hear them speak. And so both parrots flew to the Lord and rested on his hand. They began to chant the transcendental qualities of Krishna, and the Lord listened to them. The male parrot sang, "The glorification of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beneficial to everyone in the universe. His body is victorious over the gopis of Vrindavan. It subdues their patience. His pastimes astound the goddess of fortune, and his bodily strength turns Govardhan Hill into a small toy like a ball. His spotless qualities are unlimited, and his behavior satisfies everyone. Lord Krishna is attractive to everyone. Oh, may our Lord maintain the whole universe." Then the female parrot said, "Srimati Radharani's affection, her exquisite beauty and good behavior, her artistic dancing and chanting, and her poetic compositions are all so attractive that they attract the mind of Krishna, he who attracts the mind of everyone in the whole universe." Soon, in ecstatic remembrance of Krishna, the Lord fell unconscious to the ground. Eventually to be awakened by his servant Balabhadra. Now we move on to chapter 18. The Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction. Srila Rupa Goswami declares, the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there, and superior to Mathura Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan, because of Krishna's Rasa Lila pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for Govardhan Hill was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarine love of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna himself. One major event during Sri Chaitanya's parikram was the rediscovery of Radha Kund. Arriving at Aristagram, the omniscient Lord Chaitanya identified that place as the area where Aristasura had been killed, and where Radha and Krishna later formed sacred bonds of liquid love. Seeing two bodies of water in two paddy fields, the Lord ascertained that formerly these two paddy fields filled with water were called Radha Kund and Shyama Kund. In these waters, Sri Krishna and Srimati Radharani enacted their pastimes of love. And anyone who bathes there are inevitably awakening their own pure love of God. Sri Chaitanya continued on, and he visited Kusum Sarovar, Govardhan village, Brahma Kund, and Harideva temple. Sri Chaitanya had a strong desire to see the deity of Gopal. You might remember Gopal was the deity who was ensconced in the temple on Govardhan Hill, at the top of Govardhan Hill. So he wanted to see the deity of Gopal, but out of respect and reverence, he would not walk on the land on the top of Govardhan Hill. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had no desire to climb Govardhan because the hill is worshipped as Krishna himself. The Gopal deity, of course, could understand the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, on the plea of being attacked by Muslims, Gopal managed to have himself transferred to the village of Gantuli Gram. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to Gantuli Gram to see Lord Gopal. He stayed there for about 2 days. And then, some years later, Lord Gopal also went as far as Mathura to the temple of Vithalesvara and stayed there for about a month, just to give audience to Srila Rupa Goswami. These are the intimate and personal interactions of the Lord, and indeed, Gopal granted a similar audience to Sri Rupa Goswami and other great Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya's tour of Braja took him to Kamyavan, Kadiravana, Bandiravana, Bhadravana, Bilvavana, Lohavana, and Mahavana. Lord Chaitanya completed his parikram by returning to Mathura. Due to the large crowds of people, Sri Chaitanya relocated to Akrura Tirtha and continued to visit various pastime places from there. Daily, he went to the sacred places along the Jamuna River, including Keshigat, Imilitala, Dvasaditya Hill, Kalia Kradha, and here a Rajaput Kshatriya named Krishnadas, who was also an advanced Vaishnava, joined Lord Chaitanya there at Kalia Kradha, not Radha, but Kradha. One day, a crowd of people approached Lord Chaitanya, claiming that they had witnessed Krishna dancing on the heads of Kaliya serpent at night. It had become a sensation all over the town, and even Balabhadra, the Lord's servant, decided to go there and see if he could witness the event. When he returned, Lord Chaitanya rebuked his servant and cautioned that devotees should avoid being misled by superficial speculation and hearsay. The rumor did, in fact, turn out to be simply a misunderstanding, and Sri Chaitanya instead taught them that sincere devotional service is the real way to perceive Krishna's eternal pastimes. Sincere devotional service is the real way to perceive Krishna's eternal pastimes. As the Lord's ecstasy and absorption increased, the crowds also swelled in size. Seeing a great crowd in Mathura, he moved to a different place. From there, he went every day all over the place. At Kaliya Lake, many people mistook a fisherman to be Krishna, killing Kaliya or chastising Kaliya. Turned out it was only a fisherman. When some respectable people came to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they expressed their opinion that when one takes sannyas, he becomes Narayan. Their mistake was corrected by the Lord. In this way, their Krishna consciousness was awakened, and they could understand that a sannyas is simply a living entity and not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not to be mistaken one for the other. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath at Akrura Ghat, he submerged himself in the water for a long time, causing some concern. Balabhadra Bhattacharya decided to take Lord Chaitanya to Prayag after visiting the holy place known as Sorokshetra. While stopping near a village on the way to Prayag, Lord Chaitanya saw a little boy dressed as a cowherd playing a flute. Upon seeing him, he fainted dead away in ecstatic love. Some Parthana soldiers were passing through the area, and they saw Lord Chaitanya on the ground, and they falsely concluded that the Lord's associates, Balabhadra Bhattacharya and others, had killed Lord Chaitanya with a poison named Datura, and were busy taking his wealth when they came upon him. Thus, the soldiers arrested all the associates of Lord Chaitanya. However, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regained his consciousness, his associates were released, and he explained what was going on. He talked with the person there among the policemen or the gendarmes, who was supposed to be a holy man in the party. From the Quran, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established that devotional service to Krishna is what Islam is really all about. And thus the leader of the soldiers, named Vijali Khan, surrendered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he and his party became devotees of Lord Krishna. They all converted to Vaishnavism and became known as Patan Vaishnavas. Holy sites are extraordinary places. They are brimming with spiritual energy and blessings for all who visit. Elaborate worship takes place in temples that bustle with pilgrims, and constant devotional chanting fills the atmosphere 24/7. These are cities that never sleep, where the daily sights and sounds are a constant reminder of God Himself. Pilgrimages afford us the opportunity to associate with saintly persons, to develop a more personal connection with the Lord, to dive deeper into our own spiritual consciousness and practices. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami explains that everyone who circumambulates these holy places becomes free from the cycle of repeated birth and death in this material world. In fact, all benefits derived from spiritual activities multiply manifold in these sacred sites. However, to gain these spiritual advantages and blessings, we have to approach these places with a sincere attitude and humble heart. These sacred sites must be viewed through the eyes of devotion. Our external material vision would simply vision the heart-wrenching poverty, the decrepit infrastructure, the widespread pollution throughout the area. But this is all camouflage. One must go beyond the material veneer, and thus it is always recommended that one visit the holy places in the company of mature devotees of Krishna. They will help us to go beyond the superficiality so we can see the heart and the spirit of the holy Dham. Thank you very much. That is a summary of chapters 17 and 18. I hope this might inspire you to read the full book itself. It's available very easily by download in so many ways. Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thank you. Namaste. Haribol. All glories to the Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together. It extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge, and it increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. And it gives us a pure taste of that eternal nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction upon the living being. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names, like Krishna, Rama, Govinda, Jehovah, El Shaddai, Allah, Damodar. And in each of these transcendental names, you have invested all of your transcendental powers. And there aren't even any hard and fast rules for chanting these holy names. Oh my Lord, you have so kindly made approach to you easy by your holy name. But I am so fallen and so unfortunate. I have no attraction for it. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, feeling oneself to be lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects unto others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor have I any desire for the company of beautiful women, nor do I want for any number of followers of mine. What I want only is that I might have your loving devotional service in my life, birth after birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servant. And even though I'm eternally your servant, somehow or other I've fallen into this ocean, birth and death. Please therefore lift me up from this ocean of death, and place me as but an atom of dust upon your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly while I chant your holy name? When will all the holes of hair on my body have eruptions, my voice choke up husky with love for you, and my hair stand on end by the mere recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a single moment to be like 12 years and more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. Everything in this world is empty, dry, tasteless, in the absence of you. I don't know anyone except you, dear Krishna, as my Lord. You will always remain as such, even if you handle me roughly when you embrace me. Or you may make me brokenhearted by not being present before me. You may save me or you may slay me outright. You may feed me or you may make me starve. The choice is yours. Because you and only you can do anything and everything. But you are always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram,